Hey, what's up, mortals? It's Keishan VA here with a new video for you. In this video, we'll dive into the story and abilities of Datara from the Naruto Shippuden anime. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So let's get started. Originally from Yugakuri, Hidan found the Valley of Hell as a child and discovered corpses in the area. Disgusted by the valley itself, most notably the sulfur, Hidan went back home, telling everyone else of the newly made corpses. The killing was eventually determined to be an act of a clan, but not before suspicion towards Hidan for having a hand in the slaughter, before Yugakuri shinobi investigated the scene to determine the true cause. When Yugakuri shifted to a more pacifistic manner, changing from a shinobi village to a tourist site, Hidan was livid with how the village was being run due to his beliefs, and eventually slaughtered his neighbors before leaving the village for good. After his departure, he joined the cult Jashin, and through experimentation, Hidan gained his signature immortality. Eventually, Yugakuri requested Hidan's death, hiring the Akatsuki to dispatch Itachi, Konan, and Kakuzu to do so. However, during the fight, Hidan managed to destroy one of Kakuzu's hearts, and the skills led Konan to offer the cultists a place in the Akatsuki itself. The cultists accepted, mostly out of interest of Kakuzu, due to the Earth user's own form of immortality. Hidan's first known mission was the capture of the Nibi's Jinchuriki, Yukito Ni. After initially offering surrender to the Jinchuriki, Hidan and Kakuzu fought the Kunoichi and eventually defeated her. They left her transport to Zetsu and continued to the Land of Fire. When they arrived, the two assaulted the Fire Temple to collect the head monk Chiriku's bounty. Though Hidan was notably reluctant to do so, they proceeded to kill everyone in the temple, and after performing several rituals, Hidan assisted Kakuzu in taking Chiriku's body to the nearest bounty station. Once they arrived, Hidan was disgusted by the station's location inside a lavatory, opted to remain outside. He was then ambushed by a group of 4 Konoha shinobi, specifically Asuma, Shikamaru, Izumo, and Kotetsu, and was immobilized and impaled straight through. Despite this, Hidan acted as if he didn't even notice the stab wounds, catching his opponents off guard. Moments after Kakuzu arrived, forcing Shikamaru to drop his shadow binding to evade and freeing his partner. The cultist then told Kakuzu to leave them to him, and after drawing a ritual circle from his own blood, engaged Asuma in a duel, eventually managing to nick Asuma with his scythe. Using the blood, along with the ritual circle he drew earlier, he activated his ritual, immediately tipping the fight into his favor. However, while he was able to wound Asuma, his gloating and habit of targeting non-lethal areas to torture his target gave Shikamaru enough time to bind him before his final blow, meant for his heart. While using his shadow possession jutsu to force Hidan out of the circle, the tactician revealed the weaknesses of Hidan's ritualistic jutsu, and after it was confirmed that the ritual was disrupted, he bound him in shadows with the last of his chakra, giving Asuma the time he needed to approach and behead the cultist. However, to his enemy's horror, the decapitation merely inconvenienced the psychotic priest, and with his partner's assistance, Hidan's head was stitched back to his body and moved to re-enter the ritual circle. Linking himself once more to Asuma, he proceeded to move his scythe to attack the Jonin from the back, and while Asuma avoided the blade, the scythe buried itself into the priest's vitals. And as Shikamaru rushed to aid his mentor, he buried a stake in his heart, dooming the Jonin to death. Despite the advantage Hidan and his partner had against their 3 enemies, reinforcements from Konoha forced them to back off on Pain's orders. This angered Hidan in particular, who promised to kill the 3 survivors before they fled, and later assisted in sealing the Nibi and Sanbi, which took a total of 6 days. After the sealing, both Hidan and his partner were eager to continue their battle and set off to Konoha. On their way, however, they were ambushed by Shikamaru, this time with the rest of Team Asuma, with Kakashi acting in Asuma's stead. Due to the ambush, Hidan was caught in Shikamaru's shadow possession and forced to duel his partner. While Kakuzu could deal with Team 10's attacks, as well as Hidan's, Kakashi's lightning blade, used from behind, connected and seemingly killed him. Once Kakuzu revealed his own abilities, Hidan engaged Kakashi, determined to get the other's blood, while Kakuzu and his mask launched elemental jutsu at both Kakashi and the rest of Team Asuma. However, Hidan's efforts were cut short when Shikamaru started to use his shadow to engage the immortal, forcing him to focus on evasion. Despite his continued ability to evade Shikamaru's shadow, the cultist was unprepared when Shikamaru launched a punch from behind and was caught in a shadow possession jutsu due to this, and was led away into the Nara clan forest. Now in a forested area filled with wires and explosive tags, Hidan showed no desire to retreat, attacking as soon as Shikamaru's shadow possession ended. Believing he had managed to scratch the shadow user, Hidan set up his ritual and stabbed himself in the heart. Unknown to him, however, the blood was Kakuzu's, obtained by Kakashi during his lightning blade attack early on in the battle, and given to Shikamaru later on. This allowed Shikamaru an opportunity to attack Hidan while he left, though the tactician was unable to decapitate the immortal, only leaving a large gash in his neck. As Hidan attempted to slaughter Shikamaru in retaliation, noting the shadow possession's limitations, Shikamaru reinforced his shadows, trapping the cultists in place, and activated the trap he set earlier, covering the immortal in explosive tags. The ground broke to reveal a pit to trap the cultists. The trap blew Hidan's body into pieces, leaving only his head intact, which was buried in rubble as the pit collapsed in on itself. The last words Hidan said were promises to kill Shikamaru in the worst way possible before he was buried completely and left to starve to death slowly. Unlike the rest of the Akatsuki, Hidan was not revived using the Ito Tenzai, as he was still alive at the time of the Fourth Great Ninja War, though trapped and slowly dying of starvation. This shows that he is one of the only members of the Akatsuki to not be revived by Kabuto, with only Konan also remaining unrevived. Due to this, Hidan's story ends here. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. With the services Skillshare provides, you can get access to many in-depth tutorial videos on basically anything you want to learn. Each class that they have is bound to help you with your creative endeavors. Do you want to learn how to make videos like this one? Do you want to learn how to write scripts or edit audio? Skillshare has got you covered. And with our link, you can have a 14-day free trial. So what are you waiting for? Click the link now and get 14 days worth of classes free. Link in the description below. Hidan was an extremely crude and crass individual. He would often swear, not only at enemies but also at allies, and showed no respect to anyone else in the Akatsuki, even Pain, their leader. This lack of respect was to the point that he openly declared to the others how he would be more than willing to kill them, despite being part of the same organization. Even to the sole individual he gave genuine respect to, his god, Jashin. Hidan was willing to openly complain about the annoying parts of the ritual of his faith, and would often use Jashin's name in insults. Kakuzu, Hidan's Akatsuki partner, was no exception, despite the two working near flawlessly when needed. Hidan held his partner in contempt, and the feelings were mutual. Hidan did have at least some level of care for his partner, evident by his reaction at the idea of accidentally killing Kakuzu when tricked by Shikamaru, though such a reaction may have occurred due to the fact he was now partnerless, and no longer had any assistance to deal with any of his opponents. Believing that shinobi were meant to kill and fight, the priest was also an extremely sadistic individual, considering slaughter and murder a religious duty. He took extreme pleasure in such acts, often going out of his way to make his victims' deaths as painful as he could. Hidan would also enjoy the wounds he took while his ritual was complete, enjoying the pain that was shared between him and his victim, showing a masochistic side to his personality. However, wounds he took when not sharing pain with another, or wounds he took from another individual, were not wounds Hidan would delight in, showing a limit to his masochism. Due to his immortality, Hidan was exceedingly arrogant. He threw himself into fights with zero regards for strategy, his only intent being to draw their blood. Despite the frequent ridicule he would receive from others, and even admitting he wasn't particularly smart, Hidan did show some wisdom during his battle with Shikamaru, as he analyzed the tactician's shadow binding techniques and uncovering its limitations. Despite his attitude and arrogance, Hidan always showed genuine respect to anyone interested in Jashin. This was most notable in his interactions with Amiyuki. Despite being steadfast in killing him as a sacrifice, when asked his victim, the priest was willing to wait until after Amiyuki performed a sacrifice of his own. After this sacrifice, the destruction of a nearby town, Hidan openly celebrated Amiyuki as a martyr. He also showed some level of respect towards other faiths and religions, evident in his dislike of assaulting the fire temple merely for money, going as far as to call his partner a blasphemer. Hidan was a uniquely powerful shinobi. His most unique asset was his immortality, which let him survive practically everything except for malnutrition and starvation. His immortality allowed the cultists to shrug off and ignore the vast majority of attacks his enemies dealt to him. From stabbings to incineration, Hidan could even survive dismemberment and decapitation. Even if his head was separated from his body, it could still talk and function, though he could only control his body if his head was attached, requiring lost body parts to be sewn back onto it. His immortality also allowed him to be caught in his partner's attacks without issue, leading to unique and dangerous tactics and diversions. In addition to his immortality, Hidan could also heal himself passively. This healing was potent enough to heal his wounds after a battle, most notably after his battle with Asuma and Shikamaru, where he fully healed from his injuries in a matter of minutes at most. This healing allowed him to recover from stabbings, broken and crushed bones, and cuts, and the only thing he couldn't heal were lost limbs or decapitation. However, if the body part is reattached via stitches, Hidan's body would mend and heal the wound to the point the detached limb or head is seamlessly attached once again. This made Hidan exceptionally difficult to put down for good. Hidan also proved that he was a skilled weapons user, his favorite weapon being his triple-bladed scythe. Hidan's scythe was large and attached to a metal cord which led under his robe. This cord allowed Hidan to employ his scythe in long-range attacks, as well as to control the trajectory of his weapon. This let the deranged cultist manipulate his weapon in extremely unpredictable ways, creating extremely erratic and unusual trajectories which, combined with the scythe's unusual shape, made it easier to get an individual's blood. Despite his skill with the weapon, Hidan himself admitted his weapon's size limited his attack speed, claiming to be the slowest Akatsuki member in that respect. Hidan also carries retractable spikes as a secondary weapon, giving him more options in combat. However, he mainly favored his scythe, and only used the spikes in combat if he lacked his primary weapon, or the purpose of his rituals. Hidan also showed to be an incredibly evasive and nimble fighter despite his weapon's unwieldy nature. He could evade Shikamaru's shadow for extended periods of time, while manipulating his scythe seemingly effortlessly, and it made him remarkably difficult to engage in close quarters combat. His tremendous stamina and durability, combined with his immortality, also allowed Hidan to function with zero regard for any fatal injuries he's taken, making it remarkably difficult to take the cultists out of a fight for any length of time. The most dangerous ability of Hidan's, however, is arguably his ritual jutsu, curse technique, death controlling possessed blood. The ritual is unique to Hidan, only usable due to his immortality. The ritual itself requires two conditions. First of all, Hidan must draw a sigil of Jashin on the ground, usually of his own blood, that he must stay inside for the duration of the ritual. The second condition is that he obtains and ingests the blood of his target. This allows the ritual to start and creates a link between Hidan and his target, denoted by black and white markings which look similar to a skeleton. At this point, the ritual is complete, and its effects activate. In short, the ritual turns Hidan into a voodoo doll of sorts. Any damage done to him, either by himself or an outside source, is reflected onto the person whose blood he ingested, no matter the severity. Coupled with his immortality, Hidan can use this ritual to kill or torture the linked target without risk to himself. Though he does feel pain, his immortality ensures he will not die from the injuries he takes, while his target lacks that benefit. However, the ritual only functions while Hidan is inside the sigil. If pushed or otherwise forced outside the circle, the effects of the ritual are broken, and the target is freed, though only until Hidan steps back into the circle. In addition, the target does not heal any injuries gained from the ritual itself. This means that the best protection against the technique is either preventing it from being activated at all or breaking the circle itself, forcing Hidan to draw the sigil. Another limitation of the ritual is that Hidan does not automatically know who the ritual links him to. While this is normally not an issue, as the vast majority of the time Hidan can easily identify whose blood he has, an intelligent opponent can use this fact to their advantage, most notably done by Shikamaru, where he tricked Hidan into using Kakuzu's blood in his ritual with simple sleight of hand. Despite his defeat, Hidan proved himself an exceptionally dangerous opponent. He also showed to be the only one with a true claim towards the title of Immortal, of which others strived for, cementing his place in the history of the elemental nations. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has got you covered. Our We the Celestials My Hero Academia and Naruto What If YouTube channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, then I'd like to extend an invitation to you to join the team. The only caveat being that we only accept members from 16 years up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for new members to join us. Well, that's it for us for today's video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.